Thank you, Shani. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Are we still ready to hear the next segment? So I think we're just waiting for the stage to set it up, and we'll get started with our portfolio showcase. We have some of our founders right in front, eager and ready to present. So we hope that it goes well for the rest of you. I think we're just waiting for the slides to get set up. Yep. Okay. Are we good? Yeah, okay. So, all right. Thank you, Chani, and our Sustainable Cities Showcase. Wait. Yep. Uh, yep. So, good afternoon, everyone. And my name is James, and I'm in part of the Ventures team covering investor relations and portfolio management. We have an exciting showcase ahead. I'm sure our founders have done their best to keep their pitch engaging and full of energy. Apart from the pitching segment, we also have a panel in between that will explore the rise of the API economy, moderated by our Senior Director, Tia Lun, and featuring a distinguished group of panelists from our portfolio companies. All right, so as shown here, this will be our agenda for today. We're going to have a quick portfolio overview. We're going to have portfolio star pitches, start a panel, and we're going to go back into our final set of pitches. So just a quick showcase on our plug-and-play portfolio. So as most of you have seen throughout today's keynote, plug-and-play is known as a global sourcing platform for our partners. That is not just an opinion, but a fact backed by strong numbers. We have 65,000 startups in our global ecosystem. We have 50 plus global locations from Silicon Valley all the way to Johannesburg. We have 20 plus industries covered from financial services, sustainability, and smart cities, and many more. In the ecosystem, we have 700 plus employees, 200 plus ventures associates, with 70 plus operations globally. Now, apart from having a strong global presence, our ventures team is also known as a global ranking investor. Earlier this year, our ventures team came up top in PitchBook's Global League Table report. Most active globally, fifth most active in Europe, most active in US, most active in rest of global. And as a result of that, we have invested in over 1,800 companies. Our portfolio companies have raised a total of $12 billion and backing some of the best companies with 31 plus unicorns in our portfolio. Last year, we recently added Susu, Visby, Medical, Flexiv, and Vestor in our unicorn family. And we're looking forward to adding a few more this year. Some of our global numbers from 2022. With 247 investments made, 215 are in seed, 31 in early, 1 late stage, and an average check size of 96,527. And last year, we also had 27 company exits. Now focusing back on APAC, up to date, we've made 90 investments, and our portfolio companies have raised a total of $304 million. Early this year, our team has been busy closing off a total of 6 new investments: Badge, Transitory, Frontline, Better Data, Key Health, and Trace Plus. Some of them have booths outside or will be pitching today, so please feel free to connect with our founders. Apart from that, we have a total of 6 follow-on raised by our portfolio companies: Airolo, Badge, Credilink, Ketrilin, Ion Mobility, and Swarm. Sorry, still using traditional scripts. Some of our notable portfolio activities covered by various media outlets. Last year, Decentral receives backing from global fintech investor Rapid Ventures. Ion Mobility receives backing from TVS Motors, one of the leading motorcycle manufacturer headquartered in India. Tiora, our biotech startup, wins Temasek's Livability Challenge 2023 and was awarded $1 million. These are some of our investments that's been covered by various media outlets as well: Better Data, POCO, and Alterpex. Now, apart from investing and supporting amazing, talented founders, we also support our corporate partners with our various services such as investment partnership, helping our partners source for deals, conduct due diligence, and offering portfolio support. Leveraging our corporate and investor network. One successful case study we have is Meta, sourcing 176 plus startups, reviewing 45 startups, 19 due diligence conducted, 8 investment grants closed. This program started here in Singapore back in 2019 under Facebook's Accelerator program to source for startups in the business messaging focus area. Subsequently, this did not just extend to the next season, but also to various markets such as the US, Latin America, and many more. Almost coming to the end, this is our team supporting our partners and our founders on the ground, presenting our APAC Ventures team with the support of over 200 plus team members globally. So if you're looking to co-invest for corporate innovation, for portfolio support, or simply a coffee chat to exchange notes, feel free to reach out anytime. Now back to regular programming. Let's kickstart our portfolio pitches with our very first startup. To get us started, introducing a startup that has a very interesting name, we have Chicken. Chicken aggregates poultry farmers and offers their chickens to businesses while providing IoT that controls the climate, thereby increasing productivity. Take it away, Tabagus.
Check. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tubagus Shalendra, but you can call me Tebe. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Chicken. And thanks for Plug and Play Asia Pacific for inviting me to be here. It's a pleasure. And I would like to share about what we are doing in Chicken. Yeah, and what motivates me to do this job. Basically, why we started this business, because we've been cultivating chicken before I started Chicken. We've been there on the poultry space like 7 years ago. We learned a lot of inefficiencies there. Farmers have to battle with a lot of things. That's why we found that there is inefficiency that we need to solve. And as you can see, protein is the most popular protein content when we compare with other protein. And Indonesia is one of the biggest Muslim countries. Everyone eats chickens there. So we found that the market penetration is rapidly growing every year. And Indonesia has the lowest consumption per capita. It can be grow a day-to-day and year-to-day basis. And it means that potentially it's really promising, right? And as you can see, when we look at the whole value chains, there is some of big players such as CP, Java, all those big guys. And basically what they're doing is playing on the feed value chain. When we talk about the rest of the value chain, they're still highly fragmented. There is only 10 to 25% that they only absorb from their internal productions. The rest of the 75% distributed to several middlemen, which is very, very highly fragmented. And, farmers have to battle with inefficiencies. They also have uncertainty profit shares as well. And sometimes there is some of distributors that distributed their feeds, but they don't have any operation support to the farmers. And not only the productions, the distribution is the main problems that we found on the poultry space. Chicken, only 30 to 40 days in harvesting from the beginning, right? So it's very, very quick. So sometimes farmers have to battle on selling the chickens. They don't have any access. They have difficulties on finding the network. And when it comes to 30 days, they sometimes panic because how to sell the chickens. So sometimes they don't have any bargaining power to sell. And they got very, very low price rather than market price from the middleman. And from the restaurants, they have difficulties as well. Because, the lacking of supply consistency. That's why we provide chicken as an end-to-end solution, poultry, full stack farm management to democratize protein access. We provide these three solutions aim to control the farmer's productivity through environmental control inside the cage. And as you can see, we provide environmental support in making the chicken growing organically and helping them to make efficiencies. And not only that, we also give market access, financing access, and helping the farmers to grow and improve their productivity. Thank you. This is from Chicken. If you guys have any idea to collaborate, please do chat me after this. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tabagus. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tabagus. All right. Next up, we have Dagangan. Dagangan is an Indonesia-based online demand aggregation platform that provides an ordering system and delivery service. Introducing Dagangan's co-founder and president, Wilson.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. My name is Wilson Yana Prasetya. I'm a co-founder and president of Dagangan. Dagangan means buy and sell in Indonesian language. So what we do? We are basically a rural commerce platform, a trusted one, based in Indonesia. What we do is we revolutionize access to basically basic necessities for people who live in Tier 3, Tier 4, and rural areas of the country. We make sure that we cover 87% of the population of Indonesia, whereby it's very much uncovered. They have difficulties to get daily access to pretty much your soap, shampoo, detergent, food, and so on. A very big TAM, as well as service addressable market of about 131 billion. And the way the business model works is that this user who are actually located deep in the village are able to purchase from our apps. So when they order, we will deliver within 24 hours. We have community leaders who actually help them to educate as well as foster trust to make sure that they understand how to be digital and use the apps. Typically, these community leaders are head of village, the wife of the head of village, or basically people who have a very strong influence deep in the village itself. These guys help to make sure that these resellers are able to get additional revenues coming from us. So before Dagangan, what happened is that a lot of brand owners, distributors, they have challenges. They are struggling to be able to deliver goods into the rural. They depend on the green dots and the gray dots, the traders and the wholesalers, to deliver all these goods all the way into the rural. So with Dagangan, what we do is we have the red dots there. Basically, it's strategically placed hubs, kind of like a mini aggregation demand point, whereby we are able to deliver the goods from that specific location very efficiently with a positive contribution margin. By doing that, we are able not only to deliver goods and add values, pretty much based on all our users so far, 70% are still using our products after a year because they keep finding that there's no other options other than Dagangan itself, basically. And on top of that, our customers are not only the brands, not only the resellers, they are also the brands as well as the area distributors themselves. So we know in a village location, for example, how many schools are there, how many children are there, how many ice cream shops are there, what flavors do they like. And then we work together with brands, brand owners, product owners to make sure that we cater the products accordingly. So in total, we have 52 hubs. And basically, these are the team. Without them, we won't be where we are today. Today, we have 52 hubs across Java Island. We are going to grow further into across all Indonesia. Currently, we are in the process, of course, in terms of fundraising as well. So happy to partner as well as happy to talk and collaborate as well. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Wilson from Dagangan. All right, next up we have Kegmill. Kegmill empowers OEMs and technical service providers with simpler and smarter field service management software to enhance operational efficiency, service performance, knowledge retention, and profitability. Introducing Kegmill's co-founder and CEO, Kelvin.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelvin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kegmill. So at Kegmill, we build simpler and smarter field service solutions for OEMs and technical service providers to help them drive operational efficiency, service performance, and profitability of their business. So the world that we live in today, most field service companies are still operating pretty much based on a combination of pen and paper, spreadsheets, and chat apps. This is highly inefficient when you have to manually capture data in an unstructured manner, and then you have to transfer them between systems, and disparate systems cause data silos and leads to poor visibility. At the same time, the field service word, the key word is service. So world-class service companies will need to track key metrics, such as how fast you respond to an outage, how much time do you spend to resolve the issue, what is your first-time fix rate, to balance your cost to serve against the quality of service. But the big issue in the whole industry is that a lot of the younger generation do not want to join the industry because it's not a sexy industry. And the older ones, more experienced ones, are retiring today. So there's a need for companies to invest in technology, to codify this tribal knowledge so that they can pass it on to the next generation of engineers. So Kegmill, our solution, is a cloud-based field service management platform where we design to be easy to use, mobile first for the front line. We are a single source of truth for clients, contracts, assets, work orders, failure history data in one single system. And our workflow automation engine automates the entire process from service requesting to scheduling dispatch to execution and reporting. Today, we are trusted by some of the best brands and the biggest OEMs and engineering companies around the world, from building technologies to marine offshore sectors. It's a $9 billion addressable market for FSM software, and we've built the best team to attack this opportunity. So I started my career as a sales engineer, spent 20 years in manufacturing, and also early stage investing. My co-founder Henry has a background in OEM, in medical devices and robotics, and we lead a super talented team based in Singapore and Ho Chi Minh City. We are also backed by investors who support our vision, including Global Brain, Mitsubishi Electric Innovation Fund, GHV Accelerator, Origin Capital, and of course, Plug and Play. So today we are seeking partners. We are a partner-first company. We would love to talk to SIs, VARs, who can bundle our solution and go to market together. Also love to talk to corporate partners. My email is kelvin@kegmill.com. Please scan this QR code to get in touch with me. I'd love to talk. Thank you so much for your time.
Let's give Kelvin a round of applause. Thank you, Kelvin, from Kegmill. All right, now our stage is being set up for our next segment. We're having a panel discussion, so hope you guys are still with us. Taking a quick break from our portfolio pitches, and this will be our panel discussion to explore the rise of the API economy. The session will discuss the monetization opportunities and new business models created by APIs, along with showcasing success stories from companies that have leveraged the API economy. Introducing our moderator for this session, Plug and Play APAC's very own Tielun, Senior Director of Ventures. Let's give him a round of applause. This session, he will be joined by our portfolio startups, Anik Islam, Regional Business Development Lead at Broncos, Kristen Schneider, Co-founder and CEO of Blue Sheets, and Saksham Shubham, Business Head for Southeast Asia for this intro. Thank you once again for joining us today. We're looking forward to an engaging and informative session. Handing it over to you, Tielun.
Thank you, James. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you, James. Good. Yeah. Thanks for the intro, and welcome to this panel session on the rise of API economy, featuring some of our portfolio companies who are leveraging on APIs in their business models. So hope your afternoon has been great so far. I know we are the last segment actually, before the end of the summit as well as the start of the networking reception. But we saved the best for the last. So hopefully this is a good educating and enriching panel for you guys. And if you guys need coffee, there's still some coffee to perk you guys up, right? So a quick intro about myself for those of you who don't know me yet. I'm Jaelun and I lead the ventures team for Plug and Play APAC. Essentially, the ventures team, what we do is that we make investments for Plug and Play as well as startup sourcing, connecting these startups to our corporate partners as well. As your moderator, I'm really thrilled to host this panel of our portfolio companies. So without further ado, I would like to do a quick intro about our guests and allow them to actually talk a little bit about themselves as well, right? So we have Anik, the Regional Business Development Lead for Brankas, and Saksham, the Business Head of Southeast Asia at the Central, and Christian, the CEO and co-founder of Blue Sheets. So maybe from right to left, you guys can do a quick intro about yourselves and your company.
Yeah, I'll start. Okay. Thanks, Shalom. Hi, I'm Christian, and I'm representing Blue Sheets here. We're a plug and play portfolio company as well. We're at the Series A stage, based in Singapore. And so we're going to talk about the API economy today. My company is actually helping the API economy in different ways than maybe our colleagues here. So we process unstructured data that is just inherently different to API, basically. Yeah. And so I'll elaborate a little bit more on that during the panel, but we use natural language processing to process data and then structure it in an API for large companies like financial institutions, insurance companies, and larger mid-sized companies as well, to facilitate that data easily. Yeah, that's what we do.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Anik, Regional Business Development Lead for Brankas. At Brankas, we build embedded finance software solutions for FIs and fintechs. So FIs and fintechs can get a wide range of access to financial institutions, and they can build new financial services use cases and launch them and distribute with Brankas. We work with large financial institutions, some central banks around the world, and some of the largest fintechs, and support them for various use cases like payment, data, and also some product use cases that I can maybe share with you later on. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Saksham. I'm basically heading business for Decentro in Southeast Asia. We are typically a API banking as a service company. We largely deal on the infrastructure side. I mean, it was pretty similar to what Brankas essentially does, but I think the intersection points are very few, but there are some common points. It's an interesting space because we generally deal with the startups and SMEs, and that's where we see the integration of APIs as a premium model to move ahead with.
Right. Thanks for joining us for this panel. Let's kickstart the session. So a recent article I read actually mentioned the increasing prominence of the API economy being a major factor in driving the digital transformation of the financial services sector in Indonesia, right? So coincidentally, all three of you guys are our portfolio companies and are also in the financial services sector, right? So I guess my first question here will be, why do you think the API economy is so prevalent in the financial services space? And do you think other industries will catch up?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because what we see it as the next level of upgrade. that companies are essentially going to do. The first tier of technology is just to build the base level technology and then maybe get to the next level where you build in a little bit of automation, and APIs essentially bring about that, right? So what we are looking at is once you solve for the base level problem, the next stage is just to integrate with APIs and make it more seamless and easier to integrate the next and unlock the next level of seamlessness, so to say, in the ecosystem. So yeah, finance has been one of the earliest drivers because digital economy cannot flourish if finance is not sorted out. So yeah, because of that being sorted out, I think finance becomes the base for the unlocking for other parts of the digital economy. And yeah, I do feel that we are going to see a similar trend and pattern in other parts of digital businesses.
Yeah, so I agree with Saksham on that, and I will share like specific kind of things that we are observing in in Indonesia in particularly, right? Especially amongst the digital banks. So a lot of the digital banks who want to kind of catch up with kind of like the big four banks who are like already have a very good hold of the market. They are looking into a full-fledged API-powered banking as a service strategy, right? Where they're building a banking as a service product for vanilla use cases like, data and payments to more like, complex use cases like, account opening or loan origination, etc., right? So we definitely see it's happening across, and even within the financial services industry, they're different sects. You have the banks are kind of waking up to it right now, and we can easily see the insurance companies can follow up after that, right? And then maybe even remittance companies after that. So even within the financial services industry, I feel there is still a long way to go, but the signals that we are receiving are very promising. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just add on to that, I guess. I think in Indonesia specifically, what we are seeing is it is an interesting mix of that drive towards API economy from almost all industries. I think it's led by the financial services industry, and then insurance comes right after that. I would agree. Yeah, but there are a lot of things are at play here: regulation, and also in general the availability of connectors and shape-shift companies that would help with the API economy. And well, that's why we all exist here. We do help these FIs and insurance companies to build these APIs in the first place, and sort of bounce them off the regulatory hurdle as well, because that requires a lot of effort, expertise, and of course resources. Yeah, but I think we can all align on that drive is there, and that it will eventually happen, that most of the financial services industry regulated parties will be tapping into APIs mostly. It's that real-time necessity in that segment that we feel will eventually require APIs anyways.
Right. Yeah, and I think one more factor would be the regulators who are also driving the open banking system. Yeah. And that's probably also why financial services are taking the lead. But hopefully the other industries can also catch up as well. So taking a step back, how would you define, the term API economy and its significance in today's digital landscape? So just for people who are not familiar with API, it stands for Application Programming Interface. So yeah, anyone would like to add?
I could just start. It's not an easy question. The API economy. Well, so in general, I think the 2000s were probably the first wave of digital solutions emerging, based on on-premise servers, solutions, and structures, specifically in FIs and insurance companies. Yeah, so in a very simplistic way now, what we're trying to do here is to connect all these servers together. Of course, they moved to the cloud by now, but I think that's a big challenge. If we look at markets like the US or markets in Europe, they're way further ahead in that. The government has actually pushed these initiatives directly, so there was mandated initiatives behind that. So these server structures had to be broken up. We haven't seen that drive here in Asia. at least from a regulatory perspective yet. Would probably be led by countries like Singapore. Obviously, a few others are in that line as well. But so yeah, I think to define it is connecting these data lakes, data structures, and that's going to result in tons of benefits, especially when it comes to the consumer experience, and of course also reporting, fraud detection and a lot of others. So yeah, that's probably my definition.
So I agree with Christian over there, right? So how we see it is that APIs essentially can connect these fragmented sources of data with different entities, and basically essentially build up new use cases, new services, new products, which eventually benefits the customers. And benefiting the customers, that's very closely linked to open banking, right? Which essentially allows a customer to access their financial portfolio, financial services outside the sphere of maybe a bank, right? So imagine I want to top up on an e-wallet using a direct API connection from my bank account directly to the e-wallet, right? I want to apply for a loan, so I'll use an API connection to drive data from my bank account to the lender, right? When I'm applying for that. So that's how I see this thing defined essentially from the perspective of open banking. Yeah.
For me, I think API economy means, whenever you hit a certain critical mass, you deploy APIs at scale, right? For the smaller guys, it's not maybe, conventional way to go forward. But yes, once you hit a certain scale, it definitely means that you have to get to a way that you can scale better and faster. And, that can only be done through APIs at this point in time. If you just look at how payment gateways kind of grew in, the digital economy these days, you will see that now they've reached a point where it's almost like a no-code, low-code platform. And that's the beauty of it all, right? Because nowadays, it doesn't take much to integrate with the whole platform. Look at Shopify, right? So what's essentially happening in the payment space as well is, we're moving towards a low-code, no-code solution, right, at some point. And once you've hit a certain module where you see that you can grow with scale, right, and you've got enough volume coming in, you can basically move towards that kind of an economy. And I do feel that, the low-code, no-code is the upper crust of where the API economy is ultimately going to move to. But yeah, it's still early days. We've got a long way to, travel.
Well, thanks for that. So I guess my next question here would be the API economy has witnessed exponential growth in recent years, right? So what factors do you think, do you believe have contributed to this rapid, rise? And what opportunities does it present for businesses?
All right. So I think the biggest reason I feel is every country hitting a certain point of digital inflection, right? You look at, Singapore, you look at India, you look at Indonesia, you look at, Vietnam. Either these countries have already hit that point of inflection and are at a hyper growth speed, or they're almost there, right? And I think this is where, the API economy is essentially going to grow. Like I said, it's all about the scale, and at which scale does API actually make sense for you, right? I think most of the countries are already either beyond the threshold or are just about to cross that. So I feel in that sense, I feel the time is almost right. I think we are maybe in some economies, like for example, Singapore, we've already crossed that point and we are beyond a point where we can say that, it should have probably been deployed 5 years ago. But yeah, I mean, we're still new to it. Some companies have essentially grown beyond a point where they've gotten so big that now it's difficult for them to make these minor changes going back. But yeah, I think this is where the opportunity is. So any country and company in a growing economy, which is at a growth stage, which has almost hit that critical mass where they feel that, okay, now we need to, solve for automation. That's exactly where, you think API economy is essentially going to grow. You're going to see a lot of, activity happening in the startup world. especially in the digital economy. Yeah.
Yeah, following up on that, maybe which countries do you see are advanced and which countries are probably lagging behind?
Right. In terms of digital economy, I would say that Singapore is way ahead, right? Indonesia's almost crossed the threshold right now, but still there's like a whole lot of like unbanked, underbanked population that's still got to, come up and, join the, larger barrage. Then again, you've got India, which has also crossed that that threshold, right? Vietnam, we're just witnessing the unlocking of that threshold, right? Philippines, we're almost there, right? And yes, other countries, Malaysia, of course. I mean, we've almost crossed the threshold, but then again, you've got a larger underserved, underbanked market. So yeah, I think most of the developing economies are either at the threshold. Singapore and India is slightly, kind of gone a little ahead in that sense.
Maybe, yeah. I can add a bit of a different take as well. So I definitely agree. It's a bit more of a threshold there, maybe from a country perspective, but also from a company perspective, it is a lot more profitable if you're using APIs for certain operations rather than manual processes. And I think that's where kind of that drive comes from originally. And then, of course, the government has an incentive to push it too. It's usually more secure. It's close to real time, and it allows that cross sharing of data, which is definitely what has to happen eventually. Things have to be easier. Consumers are used to very smooth operations on their phones, and so I think that's kind of the driver. And I feel the corporates are driving this in the Western world quite a bit, where we've seen this in the early days coming from the idea to be more efficient in the automation space. And I think here we're catching up, of course. Local players want to stay ahead. That's why they're having these digital transformation teams, and they're looking into specifically this task. Where can we be more efficient, and where do we have to find outside players to help us with this? And that's where our companies come in. And that's what I see.
So over the past decade or so, we have seen the rise of some of the biggest digital platforms in Southeast Asia, right? These are the Grabs, the Gojeks, the Tokopedias, the Shopees, etc. And funnily enough, these digital platforms have had a much better penetration as compared to maybe the banks. The banks today they have as a region, they're less than half of the people are banked. Even more are underbanked, right? So the banks are kind of realizing this, that building those partnerships with this large digital platform can be the way forward for them to kind of bring these financial services to these underserved population. So we have seen examples of banks partnering up with imagine a e-commerce platform to issue a credit card at checkout, right? So most of those partnerships are done on a bilateral basis, right? Now, if the bank wants to do it with another e-commerce platform, they will have to start from scratch. So that's where building a kind of scalable, secure API can really help. So imagine if the bank has a card issuance as a service API, they can kind of publish this and expose this to n number of different partners and start acquiring customers at scales, customers that they would have never reached out to with their existing brick and mortar channel or their internet banking or mobile app portal, right? So that's how I see kind of this thing kind of really blowing up right now from the financial industry perspective.
Right. Thanks for that. So APIs have become building blocks for digital transformation and innovation. So would you be able to share an example or a success story of how APIs have enabled new business models in your respective experiences?
So one of the business models that we are seeing, which is interesting, is the account information service provider, under the open banking umbrella, where a person can basically share their account information, bank account information with a third-party platform, given there is a perceived benefit for it, right? So a third-party platform can be anything like a lender or a personal finance management app, or even it can be business finance management use cases as well, right? So the business, a business case for that is for every successful retrieval of bank transaction data, there is a fee that is charged to this third-party partner, right? And that fee does not have to be only paid out to the aggregators such as Broncos and Decentro, if I may put you in that category. That fee can actually be shared with the data provider, which is the banks themselves. And at scale, imagine the scale of some of the largest buy now pay later companies who are processing millions of applications for buy now pay later credits or credit limit increase. This can actually be a very viable revenue driver for them, right? So that's something we are seeing slowly being adopted. The banks are a bit slow. Broncos operates in other markets where open banking is a bit top down. So in those markets, it's becoming a lot faster.
Yeah. I think one interesting business model that's also where my company is in, Blue Sheets, is the enrichment of data based on API data, and it's clean data that comes your way. It's a data set structure you can rely on by API, and so that just allows for many AI companies to use and read that data and eventually provide additional services on top. And I think this is going to increase even more. I think it's already started a while back, but so the first early signs we see this now. This can be done for large corporates because they have usually larger data sets. It makes it much easier to apply any kind of learning on top. But this can also work for small companies if they're somewhat related or connected to the API economy as well. Of course, they have very similar users or customers, and these customers may be able to share their data with a large or a small company. And then again, these services that sit in between can work anywhere. I think that's very exciting. We do this for bookkeeping and finance purposes, but there are many other companies who do this for many other categories, and it's a growing area for sure.
Right. I think I have two examples here, right? The first one would be marketplaces, right? So Decentro has been working with multiple marketplaces in in India, and now we're working in Singapore as well. I think marketplaces are one category where we do see a certain level of financial inclusion, a bit of the digital economy concept, right? And we love to power and kind of automate both sides of the coin, right? One on the consumer side where we essentially collect payments from customers, and on the other side where we kind of streamline the payments that are made out to vendors, and kind of reconcile that all, put that all together. On the other hand, I think that's a more powerful example, and that would be neobanks. So using our APIs, essentially we can create neobanks in probably 2 to 3 months, right? And some of the neobanks that we've worked with are doing a lot of stuff in the financial inclusion department. I'm sure some of the people here would know a lot about how UPI has revolutionized the way people do payments in India. We also have leveraged on top of that, and we've kind of built a module around that where we say that we are going to make sure that these business models that we enable are able to collect, disburse funds in India, right, and make it almost as good as seamless, right? Not just from a point of integration, but also from a point of transactional level, right? So I think those two examples are quite powerful in terms of what Decentro's capabilities are, and what we've done for the API economy.
Thanks for sharing. I do have a lot of other questions, but I think we're running out of time. So my last question here is, As the API economy develops and evolves, what emerging trends or technologies do you foresee shaping its future? Yeah.
All right.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, it's like many answers. I think. So I think in the immediate sort of midterm view, I would probably say that in APAC there's still a lot of the foundational layers to be built. That means companies like Brankas, for example, Decentral, will have to open up APIs. There's many others. There will be some, as I mentioned earlier, driven by the government eventually, and so on and so forth. So I think this is still happening. And even that, I feel, is a few good years away to work seamlessly. That said, though, I think what will happen afterwards is these companies who use these pipes, and that's there's going to be a lot more diversity in this category then. Many use cases that go into the business B2B space, consumer space. And that's probably happening now already. We see companies getting funded in these segments, even AI companies already. But I have to say, for APAC, it's definitely early days. And probably we will see that there will be great diversity in 2 to 3 years. But right now, still a bit more on the foundations of everything. That's what I would say.
Yeah. AI. I'm kidding. So in the next few years, and this is our hope that more banks would kind of realize the potential of building distributing their products and services in the form of APIs. Because if you just go by market, there would be only a handful of banks who are who have the foresight to kind of build that, or at least take the steps to build it out, right? For maybe the more developed markets like Singapore, I'm hoping the banks would make it easier for maybe startups and aggregators like Brankas to kind of access those APIs and then distribute them, right? And lastly, for the regulators, there have been some works, some mandates so far, but that's been it, right? It's been stalled for for some of the markets that we operating in, Indonesia, Philippines. So we hope the pace will take up, because just empirically speaking, whenever there has been top-down pressure, things have moved quite fast, right? UK is an example, EU is an example, and now we are seeing the same in Middle East, in markets like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, right? Once the regulators have made the framework and told that, hey, by this date you have to be API compliant, and the banks started moving, and then once they build the API, then they would start thinking about how to make a viable use case, right? So we hope to see the same in Southeast Asia as well, at least in the bigger markets. And yeah, again, it benefits the customers and customers at the end of the day.
While I agree from with Anik's point, right? It's an interesting point, the infrastructure part of the business, right? I would like to, probably go a step forward, because I think we're already solving for that. But beyond that, I think what we're looking at is, the upcoming technologies, right? We definitely want to see better APIs coming in terms of, cross-border commerce, right? In terms of cross-border payments. We'd love to see it in terms of CBDC, right? Which is, lesser talked about, but, in evolving tech. Other forms of, cross-border exchange, that's exactly what the problem in the world is right now. That still remains to be solved, right? So I think those are a couple of areas where I would see the next unlocking to happen. Beyond that, I do feel that, there's a bit of a confusion around what's going to happen with cryptocurrencies and, blockchain. I mean, the tech has already been accepted in the world and people are working on different projects, but cryptocurrency as a subject, I think that still bears some confusion. But yeah, once we are beyond that point, I believe, there might be another stage of unlocking there as well.
Got it.
And with that, I guess this wraps up the panel. I would like to thank the panelists once again for joining us and sharing with us their experiences and their knowledge as well. Personally, I learned a lot from this panel as well. So I'll hand the time back to James to introduce the rest of the startups. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's give a round of applause to our
Thank you, guys.
leader and to some for your founders. Well, I hope that was an insightful session for most of us. And we hope that you are still with us. Okay, now we're moving back to our startup pitches. We have 4 more startups that will be pitching: Next Block, Smile, Transit Tree, and Umami Meats. To kick us off again, we have Next Block. Next Block is the next door for Southeast Asia, a hyper-local social networking platform that connects people within the same neighborhood. Introducing Next Block's co-founder and CEO, Daryl.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hi, my name is Daryl. So just a quick introduction to myself. I'm 39 this year. I kickstarted, joined 6 startup projects for 13 years. Sold 1, 3 still running, 2 folded. But more importantly, I'm learning new things every single day. So 1.5 years ago, 18 months ago, this actually happened in my family. A family friend of mine, 80-year-old uncle, dementia, went missing in a neighborhood, found dead in a canal 3 days later. Got me also thinking, what if we had 5,000 pairs of eyes staying in Hougang? Somebody might have saw him. Somebody could have spotted him. Somebody could have brought him home. When was the last time you spoke to a neighbor? I think that's one of the biggest questions that came to my mind. Technology is supposed to bring people closer. We are staying in such close proximity, but when was the last time you actually spoke to your neighbor, which I call them your closest strangers? You live in such close proximity, but you don't know each other. So that's what Nextblock started to do. It's all about connectivity for neighbors to come together to share information about estate happenings. It's also about security. We want to create a safe space for people to come together that they can share information and at the same time ask for help when it is really required. We are not just a platform, we are also then building an ecosystem down here for neighbors to neighbors interaction, neighborhood businesses for them to thrive in this current world, and more importantly, working with public agencies to form alliances in this community ecosystem. So we have launched the app for around a year right now. We are very close to 40,000 users right now, 15 minutes, 10 seconds on average user time, high retention rates of 25% of weekly active user. 1/4 of users log into the app at least once a week. And these are some of the things that we've helped. We have helped numerous people find their way home, build strong social capital within a neighborhood, helping people find neighbors, new friends around a neighborhood that they can rely on. Trusted by following partners, more than 100 neighborhood businesses on board, support of government agencies, as well as some local police, fire, police department who got on board with us too. We have launched something very new, Nextblock Coins. In short, when you contribute to your digital community, you get rewards and you're able to exchange for vouchers, rewards. Who doesn't love that? We're also working with the HDB, the largest property developer here in Singapore, on adoption of Nextblock app for a new town here in Singapore, as well as a partnership in Thailand. So how do we make money? Simple. We are charging a membership program that's coming up next month. At the same time, neighborhood businesses that requires an additional boost of marketing within their vicinity. So we have more than 67 neighborhood merchants, 82 more incoming. At the same time, we do have people who are paying for ads on our app itself. So our goals are very simple. Within the next 5 years, we are looking to tackle 5 key target markets, 75 million users, putting ourselves on benchmark with the largest neighborhood app in the world, Nextdoor, that just IPO'd 2 years ago. Yep, so that's just a quick roundup what Nextblock is all about. Tremendous social impact. We are people here looking to make a difference in your community. And I'm here, like I mentioned, looking out for partners, investors, property developers, not just here in Singapore, all around Southeast Asia. Happy to speak more. We have a booth over there, so just come over here and take a look at us. That's me, Daryl. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daryl. All right, next up, we have Smile. Smile provides income and employment data across platforms and employers all through a single API. Introducing Smile's founder and CEO, Jerome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Okay. Hi, I'm Jerome. I'm the CEO and founder of Smile API. We're one trusted source for employment data in Asia. So, first of all, the problem. There's millions of people in Southeast Asia who do not have access to credit data. What does it mean? You cannot get access to any financial services, specifically to loans. So there's a fantastic solution for that. First of all, there is employment data. But the problem with employment data, that's highly valuable. It's a great alternative, but it is highly distributed. So this kind of information is really, there's hundreds of thousands of employers in each and every different country. So you cannot necessarily get access to the employment data, which is a great proxy. So this is exactly the problem that Smile is solving. When we're looking at the solution, specifically, Smile is offering access to payroll data, to government data, to freelancers, and also to gig workers. Kind of information that we're offering is specifically identity data, employment data, and data that is referred to your income. So the use cases are mostly for loans, for underwriting, for banking, or for background checks if you would like to get a new job. Each and every employer is requiring a background check in our target markets. So the product is fairly simple. First and foremost, we get the user data. It is in the client app. So the finance application, the bank can actually integrate Smile, and it is all user incentivized and it is user authorized. The FinTech API for our clients is providing unique data for over 90% of the working population in our target market, the Philippines. Access happens in seconds. It's very straightforward. First of all, you give your consent as the end user, you choose your employer, you type in your credentials, and you're back in the app, and your loan has been connected, or you receive your loan. We've been able to reduce our customers' non-performing loan ratio by 50%. Some of our customers have actually reduced their biggest cost block, which is non-performing loans, by half, right? So our go-to-market is fairly straightforward and very simple. It is sales-led growth. We're talking to the banks. The banks are our customers. Lending companies are our customers. We're charging around 75 cents, and depending on the volume, 30 cents per connected account, right? Our ICP are the chief risk officers of financial institutions. Our claim to fame is very easy: make better credit decisions with Smile API. Channels that we use are straightforward. It's our own sales team. At the other side, we're also working with referrals to customers. Happy customers are the best salespeople. Our roadmap is straightforward. Right now, we're in the Philippines, where there's around 45 million employees. In Indonesia, we have, as a next step, around 150 million employees. In all of Asia, we have over 1 billion employees. So we are essentially empowering people's lives by enabling them to share their employment data on their own terms for their own purpose. And there's a lot of things that we can actually do together with our customers. We're fully compliant. We're an ISO certified company, and we're also venturing into new spaces. We have a bunch of investors. We're raising a next round. Please be in touch with us. We have a booth over there as well. Thank you very much. I'm Jerome Eger, CEO of Smile API. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerome. All right, our next two startups primarily focus on sustainability, with our upcoming startup being one of our latest investments. Without further ado, introducing Transitory. Transitory leverages AI, satellite data, and smart devices to offer nature-based solutions for reversing climate change. Let's welcome Transitory's co-founder and CEO, Navarun.
Thanks, James. So, good afternoon, everyone, and we are Transitory. So I'm Navarun, co-founder of Transitory. What we're doing at Transitory is basically allowing you to bring more credibility and better governance into the voluntary carbon market. Now, we started out by focusing on, specifically the regenerative agriculture space. However, having said that, let's quickly take a look at a recap into what we've done so far. So we have built a product which is a blockchain platform for traceability, auditability, and trust in the process. We are present in 4 countries. So at this point of time, we have about 500,000 hectares of land that we are managing. And we've already sold carbon credits, about $150,000 worth. And we also have our predictive AI model for understanding the potential of carbon credit generation, as well as we are working on the overall greenhouse gas management of these projects. Now, what is the biggest issue here? The biggest issue, and many of you already have probably heard about it, the top carbon registries in the world, they are actually facing an issue of credibility. How do they prove that the data that goes behind issuing carbon credits is actually legitimate in nature? So this is where our platform comes in handy. We are a purpose-built blockchain platform enabling the traceability of every bit of data that goes into the process. And, we call ourselves a digital MRV, which is measurement, reporting, and verification. So as I mentioned, we have the trust platform. We also take care of your entire process from the source to trade for the VCUs. And finally, we activate regenerative finance because we have access to the first-party data and because we can enable the risk analysis. Now, when we talk about the entire stack value here, so there are multiple things here. Because of the data that is being stored in terms of the projects, we are almost creating a digital twin for your entire operation. Beyond this, we are enabling continuous monitoring of all the parameters which are important for issuing the carbon credits and to verify the projects with the help of the third-party auditors. And once we have access to this data, we are creating the risk analytics to enable investors to come in and invest into these projects. So this is the green finance that we're enabling. And then on top of that, when it comes to reporting of this data, we certainly have the ways to report for your TCFD, TNFD reporting, etc. And finally, obviously, you are achieving your sustainability goals. So we are targeting 2 markets. The $2 billion market is the global voluntary carbon offset. The $133 billion market that you see is the green finance market. And, we have different tiered offerings, but largely we'd say that it's the entire process end-to-end from origination until the primary sales of the carbon credits. So we are estimating about $13 million of annual revenue potential by the end of next year. And essentially, it's the co-founding team that you see on the screen. That's me and Vishan. So Vishan does come from a very interesting background. His family actually owns a coffee plantation in India, and that's where a lot of our personal experience comes from as well. So again, we are just about to raise a rolling fundraising round. So if you're interested, please let us know, and we'll be happy to connect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Navarun. All right, last portfolio, but not the least. None other than Umami Meats. Umami Meats pioneered the development of cultivated, not caught seafood by crafting delicious, nutritious, and affordable cultivated fish. Introducing Umami Meats Head of Research and Development, Dr. Dheeraj Singh.
Hello. Thank you, James. So my name is Dheeraj. I'm head of R&D at Umami Meats. So at Umami Meats, what we are doing is trying to create an architect layer to make cultivated seafood available globally, which is free from any form of contaminants, good for you, and good for the planet. When we talk about food, food is deeply rooted in the culture across the globe. As a person growing up in different parts of the world, one of the strongest connection I had with my own culture and other culture is via food. I believe most of you would agree to that point. But that culture of food relationship is under threat because we don't have enough supply. When we look at the seafood in particular, we can see that we largely get it from either ocean or aquaculture facility. But from 80s, you can see that the seafood supply is almost stagnant. In fact, it's declining because of global warming and climate changes. We managed to add a little bit of seafood using aquaculture. However, the aquaculture can only provide a handful of fish species and probably might not able to provide enough what we like to eat. So what is the current status of seafood? The seafood across the globe from the maximum fisheries are almost overfished or almost fully utilized. Whatever we are getting from the ocean is actually, it's contaminated with microplastics, heavy metal, etc., which is detrimental for human health. Not only that, our drive to eat those kind of fish species also driving almost hundreds of fish species to extinction. Not only that, we are putting almost 500 million people, small fishermen who depend for their livelihood on certain kind of fish species. Basically, there is no money, no economy, and they might not have access to food. So, as I discussed that there are hundreds of species which are going to be extinct, at Umami Meats, we are focused on those fish species which are not farmable in traditional aquaculture farming method. They're ETP, endangered, threatened, and protected, listed in IUCN Red Data List. How we do this is by using stem cell technology. What we do is like we choose the fish of interest, like unagi, grouper, snappers, and we isolate these stem cells, optimize, put them in a bigger bioreactor, convert them into muscle and fat, and then give it to the range of partners who can structure them into different kind of food materials. At Umami Meats, we want to be the ecosystem enablers by building our technology. We want to give them a plug-and-play technology which can be a standard modular design, which can run on our machine learning automated platform called Alchemist. We are on a mission to make the best possible food in the world, seafood in the world. And this is one of the products which we co-developed with our partners in Israel, which is 3D printed, and we demonstrated it and fed it to our officials in Israel. But I would say this is not the best possible seafood. In order to succeed globally, the food should be deeply rooted in the local culture. We should cater to the local aspirations. And that's why we're building a network of people around the globe to make that happen. These are the concept food which we want to bring to the life and then to the market. So in order to grow in this part of the world, we are looking at partners. If you're interested in cultivated seafood space, please come to us. We have a booth there, but I think I'm the last speaker, probably might not be able to reach, but yes, you guys can reach out to us. And our philosophy is cultivated but not caught. We are not harming the animals in the process. We are developing technology to make cultivated seafood available to each and everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Dheeraj Singh. All right, now let's give another round of applause to our portfolio startups, because with that concludes our APAC Summit for this segment. Now, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our portfolio founders once again. And if you'd like to connect with our founders after the event, please indicate your interest by scanning the QR code on screen or at the back of your name tag. Our startups will have their booths up until 5:30 p.m. And if you'd like to find out more about Plug and Play or about our portfolio companies, please reach out to our team members. And with that, we conclude our APAC Summit. See you at our next summit. And for those of you who have registered for our networking session and have received confirmation emails, that will be at level 1, and we'll see you there. Thank you, guys, and have a good evening ahead. Thank you.